Hey, welcome to the American Dad Iceberg Explained. If you don't know what an iceberg is, it's basically the most known content up top, and as it goes down, it's lesser and lesser known things about the show. I'm kind of an American Dad fanatic, so I loved making this, and if you enjoy it, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to be making more videos like this, so be sure to stick around, and thank you. The Smith-Santa Feud. In many of the show's Christmas episodes, we follow along the continued storyline between the Smiths and Santa. The whole feud began when Stan gave Steve a gun for Christmas, which he used to accidentally shoot what was presumed to be a mall Santa, but it turned out this was actually the real Santa who was brought back to the North Pole and put on life support while his elves prepare to get revenge on the Smiths. The episode climaxes at an epic battle between Santa's forces and the Smith family as they hold their ground in an RV of a moonshiner that Roger sought out earlier in the episode. They end up surviving the attack, but this begins a feud that reappears in other American Dad Christmas episodes. I'm pretty sure Santa has two primary appearances after this, with the first being Minstrel Krampus in Season 9. The next time is in Season 12, when Santa hatches a plot to resurrect this monster guy, but the plan backfires when the monster disregards Santa and goes on a rampage. Roger crash landed at Area 51. This entry is referring to Roger's time at Area 51 when, most notably, he first encounters Stan, who is at first hunting him down after he escaped from containment. In the room where Stan has Roger cornered, the other squad members toss grenades in. As Stan tries to get out with Roger, he hits his head on a lamp and gets knocked out. In this moment, Roger decides to save his own and Stan's life by escaping through a laundry chute, which actually leads us into the next entry on this list. Roger's life debt. This stems from Roger saving Stan's life back at Area 51, which makes Stan feel obligated to keep Roger safe by allowing him to live in the attic through the rest of the show. There's also an episode later on named You Debt Your Life, where Stan ends up saving Roger's life, making their life debts even, which leads to Roger needing to save Stan's life again in the episode so he can keep living in the attic. Sounding a lot like the pasta sauce Rogu, Rogu is referred to in the show as a homunculus that came off of Roger. In the episode The Hand That Rocks the Rogu, Roger has what looks like a tumor which constantly increases in size as the episode goes on until he has to have it removed. After removing the tumor and storing it in a glass jar, it eventually comes to life and turns out to be like a baby Roger of sorts. Roger's explanation for this in the episode is that his body was going through so much stress handling different personas that it grew Rogu off of it to help Roger handle everything. The Golden Turd is a sub-series within the show following the story of a turd that Roger first laid in Season 1's Homeland Insecurity that's made of pure gold with various jewels in it as well. The theme conveyed by every Golden Turd story is that its value corrupts people and most of the time destroys personal relationships as the person who finds the Golden Turd is corrupted by greed. The Golden Turd story comes to an end in the episode Blargsnart, A Love Story, where after a series of terrible events, Roger has to project himself into the moment where the turd is first laid to tell his former self not to let anyone get a hold of it. Francine's surrogate child Libby is first introduced in the Season 3 episode Surrogate, in which Greg and Terry announce they are looking for a surrogate mother and Francine gladly offers herself up. Even with Stan being strongly opposed to this idea, Francine goes through with the plan but does it in secret. After the baby's birth, Stan kidnaps her and heads for the Nebraska border, while he's also pursued by gay truckers. With the help of a lesbian couple he finds, Stan finally changes his mind and gives Libby back to Greg and Terry. She appears a few times throughout the show, but never really having a very important role in episodes. In the late 80s, Oliver North, a national security staff member during the Iran-Contra affair, bypassed Congress to illegally sell weapons to a regime in Iran to encourage the release of American hostages. The entry itself is referring to the conspiracy in the episode Stanny Slickers 2, The Legend of Ollie's Gold, which outlines said affair in song format that later turned out to be true. Klaus's real body. This entry is just talking about the body that Klaus the fish used to be in. He used to be a professional German ski jumper but had his consciousness transferred into a fish. His body makes an appearance in the episode De Flippity Flop, where Klaus is made aware that his old body is being kept frozen at the CIA, and asks Stan to put him back in it, but he puts it off and never gets around to doing it. Due to this, Klaus steals Stan's body and goes off to a ski jump, which leaves Stan only having Klaus's old body to move into, so he can chase Klaus. Stan's dad and his history with Krampus. Jack Smith, as a child, trapped Krampus inside a copper pot to stop the punishments for being a bad kid. Fast forward to I guess 2013, and Stan decides to free Krampus after Steve acts like a brat all throughout Christmas. The first thing Krampus does when he's out is kidnap Steve to lure Jack back to the Krampus castle in Bavaria so he can get his revenge. When Jack gets to the castle, Steve has already realized that Krampus only ever had good intentions in punishing kids so that they would become better people. But just then, Santa shows up and he shoots Krampus to death. But then Krampus' soul flies into Jack's body, and now Jack's the new Krampus. It's nuts, man. But it's a pretty fitting role. But then he also ends up being a bus driver in Detroit as the Holiday Demon, of course. Klaus's boys in Florida are real. Being the social outcast that Klaus is, the family never really believes his repeated references to the boys in Florida. Their existence isn't really much of a secret, as in the episode Lost Boys, Roger, Steve, and Klaus go down to Florida to see the boys. Upon finding out they're actually real, Roger is just infatuated by them, especially Big Ed, asking to see the toilet he cracked when he sat on it backwards. The 200. This is talking about probably one of my favorite episodes, The 200, which is set in Langley Falls, except it's a Fallout-style wasteland. As the family converges in the supposed New Haven safe zone, it turns out that it's all been burnt down. Also, there is the antagonist. Lewis whistles out for an army that happens to be 200 different clones of Roger, created all when he got stuck inside a large hadron collider at Langley Quantum Labs, which caused all of his personalities to split and also turn the world into a wasteland. Roger's powers. This is referring to the long list of alien powers/skills that Roger's revealed to have throughout the show, which are super strong legs, superhuman speed, immunity to drowning, fire immunity, can survive in space, regenerative healing, and an extended lifespan, with him being over 1,600 years old. Bullock's wife and kid. Stan's boss and the deputy director of the CIA, Bullock, had a wife named Miriam who is said to be missing in Iraq until the episode One Little World, where she is rescued, but it turns out she has also been brainwashed into being a terrorist. Eventually she recovers from this by the adoption of Bullock's son, Avery Jr. The Smith mineral rights. This is referring to the season 11 episode Mind Struggle, in which we find out that the Smiths have a large vein of salt under their backyard. This leads to conflict, as Steve is the actual holder of the mineral rights on the land due to a deal made with his dad as a kid. Steve doesn't want to sell out to Big Salt, fuck Big Salt, but the rest of the family do. However, tricked by Roger, Steve signs away the mineral rights just for the salt company to realize there wasn't any salt down there. It was just another trick by Roger to get back at Big Salt. Stan's Native American half-brother. Rusty is Stan's half-brother on their father's side, who we meet in the episode There Would Be Bad Blood. The Smiths go over to Rusty's house for Thanksgiving, thinking that he's much poorer than the family. But the interesting thing about Rusty is that he's extremely rich due to the vast copper reserves on his land that he got from his great-great-grandpa Smith, who won it in a baseball game. Stan is really jealous of this, even though he cheated Rusty to get $20,000 from great-great-grandpa Smith's will instead of the land. Francine's real hair color. In the episode Shallow Vows, Francine is upset by how Stan doesn't appreciate all she does to keep herself looking good, so she fully lets herself go. Particularly not dyeing her hair, which lets us find out that she naturally has brown hair, and not the bright blonde that we're used to seeing. King Klaus reality. I'm pretty sure this is referring to the episode The One That Got Away, in which the Smith family is too preoccupied with a game of Simon to give Klaus any attention. So he throws a smoke bomb onto himself in the game, but when he comes back from the smoke, he says he's been gone for 60 years from his perspective and was crowned king in the world that he would transported to. The B12 Killer. B12 is a boy band consisting of 12 boys, including Snot, Barry's, Toshi, and Steve, and then a bunch of other random boys. In the B plot for season 16, episode 2, a mysterious figure has been going around murdering all members of B12. But when he gets around to killing Steve, he ends up impaled on the flagpole. The murderer is then revealed to actually be a band member named Abraham H. Roger's first visit to Earth. In the episode Oratron Trail, Roger reveals to the Smith family that he's visited Earth once before in the 1800s, but accidentally caused his aunt's spaceship to crash into the west, leading to her dying on impact. Haley Dream Smasher Smith. It turns out that Haley's middle name is actually Dream Smasher. This was revealed in the episode Stanny Slickers 2, The Legend of Ollie's Gold, when Stan mentions that she got her middle name from him having to give up looking for Oliver North's gold due to her birth, making her, a dream smasher. The Patriot Pigeon series. In the episode Star Trek, in hopes of encouraging his son in creative writing class, Stan shows Steve his collection of 3012 children's books, all revolving around the Patriot Pigeon character, which, let me say, it doesn't even come close to the Don't Let the Pigeon series. Sadly though, Stan has received over 10,000 rejection letters in the process of trying to get his book published. Patriot Pigeon himself has a recurring trait of dropping red and white blue craps of justice on America's enemies. The Majestic is a song by rock band Wax Fang that is played as the summoner goes through all of Jeff's memories in the episode Lost in Space, in an effort to prove his love for Haley to gain his freedom. Intro sequence speed runs. This is talking about a trend on YouTube for a while in 2020 of fake videos showing the quickest route to speedrun the American Dad intro song. To my surprise, there's also a website called AmericanDadSpeedruns.com, which features all recorded runs on platforms even like Wii and PS2. The forgotten fifth member of the sleepover group. It's not clear whether this black dude named Ronnie was or wasn't a part of the group when they were younger, but he just so happened to show up in a piñata named Desire, or a random dude that just showed up in their treehouse. Jeff's alien biology. In the episode Holy Shit, Jeff's Back, Jeff seemingly returns from space out of nowhere, but it turns out he's really just an alien named Zablier from a species of collectors who found and dissected Jeff. They sent Zablier and Jeff's body down to Earth to find more things for their species to collect. Having grown empathy for the Smith family and human life as a whole, Zablier gives up his life just to put Jeff's brain back into his body, which means Jeff now has an alien body, but Roger's the only one that knows about this because all of their memories were wiped after having gone up onto the collector's spaceship. Alright, that was the American Dad Iceberg Explained. I really hope y'all enjoyed. I only did the first part today, but if you really want a second part of the bottom of the iceberg, a lot lesser known content, be sure to let me know and I can make that happen. And I appreciate all of you for sticking around and watching the whole thing. Thank you.